It didn't start because of me. I didn't start this. No one can sit here, no one that is watching this video can say and fix their mouth. And if you do, you got to bring the receipts. You can't give me your feelings. Give me facts. Show me one conflict. Show me one online battle that I have ever started. Show me one.
Kirk Franklin goes on no punk Christian rant against pastor who bullied daughter. Kirk Franklin is apologizing to fans after the self-proclaimed non-weak, no-punk Christian fired a series of tweets at a controversial pastor who bullied his daughter. It all started when Franklin's 19-year-old daughter, Kennedy, accused a man who goes by the name of Pastor Saiko Woods of bullying her.
Just give me one. Give me one issue, one skirmish, one beef, one online altercation that I set off. Give me one. And I'm gonna call you a liar.
I'll be your Huckleberry. So, for those of you who are unaware, Saiko Woods had made a tweeting comment. From what I understand, he did it as tweeting about Kirk Franklin's 19-year-old daughter dressing like a thought. Now, he used a different word, but I'm going to say that one because maybe that other one is a little bit too much to say. So anyway, I want to challenge you, Saiko Woods, because you said for someone to show you where you have started an online confrontation. And I don't want you to try and justify and explain away and make excuses about this situation, because it was apparent that Kirk Franklin singled you out as the bully to his 19-year-old daughter. You know, Saiko, I feel like you're getting a track record on picking on young females. Let's see, you had Michaela. You had that other young lady that did nothing to you but broke up with your son, and so you put her on blast and she didn't do anything to you. Then you had Kirk Franklin's 19-year-old daughter that you're publicly talking about her attire. And just for the record, I'm not a fan of Kirk Franklin, but I am going to say what's wrong is wrong and right is right. You don't talk about a 19-year-old attire publicly. I mean, if you want to make a generalized statement about someone's dress wear and not name any names, then that's something different. If you're stating, hey, you know, the young folks, I wish they would be more modest, dress more appropriately. But no, you specifically went after Kirk Franklin's 19-year-old daughter. And knowing how that age is a very complex, frustrating, challenging age. You have 4 daughters, Mr. Woods. And I guarantee you, if someone publicly said that about your daughters, you would have lost it. You would have lost it if someone's picked on your daughters like that. And so, yes, you were the one, and Kirk Franklin spoke about you. So I don't know if you're trying to get some clout, get some controversy going on to get your name out there and get known, because I know that's one of the ways of getting known is through controversy. But anyway, I'm going to allow Kirk Franklin to say what he had to say to Saiko Woods. Now, Kirk Franklin does name another person, but Saiko is the number one person he's talking to. And you'll see that Saiko Woods is the first person, the first name that he says. And normally when you say the first person's name, that's the one who did you dirty or is doing the most out of everybody. So it's Saiko Woods and then some other person I've never heard of. But Kirk Franklin is definitely speaking primarily to Saiko Woods, who's going after these young 19-year-old girls. Saiko, get a life. Seriously, get a life. Get a life. In Jesus' name, Kirk Franklin will defend his daughter by any means. My daughter is in tears because two so-called Christian people online have bullied her. After what Kirk Franklin assumed to be a threat to his youngest daughter from a Twitter user on Sunday, January 29th, the gospel singer and author warned that just as easily as he could catch the Holy Ghost, anyone with plans to endanger his daughter could catch the holy smoke. But after some back and forth between the user who claims that Franklin was mistaken, he got a little more to say after receiving a troubling phone call from his wife. On Tuesday, January 31st, the I Smile singer returned to Twitter once again to reveal that his daughter had been in tears as a result of online harassment from two specific individuals who claimed to be Christian in faith. Adding that she was called out of her name, Franklin called the users out as well, tagging them in the disheartening tweet. It's 10 a.m. here in Tokyo, and my wife just called me to let me know my daughter is in tears because two so-called Christian people online have bullied her and called her everything but a child of God. He wrote, "Congratulations, Saiko Woods and C.S. Right to Inspire. You have succeeded. You come for someone's child in the name of your own self-righteous and expect people to follow that type of God," he said. "My heart is broken, and so is hers. But she's gonna be all right. To all my followers, this is not a reflection of Jesus. He would never hurt you to save you." Dubbing himself a proud, crazy, 9-week, no-pawn Christian, Franklin also dropped a couple of bombs on the Twitter user he said bullied his daughter to top off his statement. Lastly, at Saiko Woods, "Please tell us why you were kicked out of your church. Us ungodly Christian would love to know," he mentioned. "Leave my child alone. That's all I'm gonna say, bro. My apologies, Twitter. I'm 1,000 miles away from home and I'm trying to protect my baby." After Franklin spoke out against Pastor Saiko Woods, who said his daughter dressed like a WH blank blank blank, which I'm sure you guys can imagine what that word is spelled out, and bullied her online last week, the gospel musician admitted that public debates with other Christians leave him feeling fatigued. So on a recent live stream, Saiko Woods was addressing, I guess, an anonymous mob member for giving out private information or phone numbers. I don't know. It was just a lot of babbling, and I don't know. I was trying to listen. It was something about information being let out that was private, or phone numbers, or saying someone was harassing his daughter, but I didn't hear like the specifics of it. So anyway, he's letting whoever has done that, those anonymous texts or whatever harassment, is letting whoever that is, letting them know that they have a very low, poor character of attacking a man's wife or children or a woman. But Saiko, didn't you just attack Kirk Franklin's daughter, who's 19, not even old enough to drink? I mean, she's still young. She's still trying to find her way. She's not mature at all. And you don't ever want to consider those things. You don't want to just go after a young lady like that when she's still trying to grow mentally and emotionally. And for you to attack her on blast, knowing how sensitive young people are to doing that, because that could lead someone does not have a strong mind, that could lead to depression or other harmful things. And for you not to consider that, being in your 50s and knowing that you would want someone to do that to your daughter, really shows how much of a low character you have. Am I surprised? No. But hopefully people who haven't figured that out about you can see that, and to see the hypocrisy that you have, which is like a normal occurrence for you.
And then you try to spread lies, saying that I'm an abuser, saying that I abuse my wife and children. No proof, by the way. Liars don't need proof. All they need is fools that they'll believe the lie. That doesn't work. And then you try to disrespect my wife, disrespect my children. But you're not stupid. You're not gonna put your hands on them. So you'll just say stupid things online. This is what you're seeing, the baseness of man. When you can go after women or a man's family instead of going at that man, that shows you how low you are and how low you can go. There is no respect. There is no respect. God is not in these people.
So the next hypocrisy I'm going to highlight of Saiko Woods is how it's okay for him to dox children or victims, but it's not okay for you to do it, okay? He's the only one that gets the pass, but you don't. We don't get that pass, but Saiko Woods does, and he chooses when and where he gets to evoke that pass. So he's always double-minded, as most of us know. And so I want to show the hypocrisy, how he's wanting to put people's names out there, even minors. Now, he might have the excuse, well, the names are already out there publicly anyway. And hey, maybe somewhere it is, but you know the mothers of those kids, you even said yourself, don't want their kids' name out there. And that they already told you they don't like it when Marcus Rogers used their kids as props. But you still allowed their names to be publicly stated because you're asking her for those names. But then you're going to say how we're not supposed to be doxing anybody and victims. So you're really backwards in your thinking, and this is just another hypocrisy that you had that we're just adding to the pile. And I hope people wake up to you, Mr. Saiko Woods, because you really are a very, very confused character.
Mm-hmm. Did he give you any of the children's names?
Oh yeah.
And what were they?
I know the kids' names.
What were their names? What are their names?
Well, I really don't want to, say the kids' names.
Right. And again, I'm not trying to force anybody or any witnesses to say anything they're not comfortable with. But for the sake of truth and for the sake of clarity, this is why this needs to be done. So he's put his own children's faces and images online as well too, even without some of the parents.
Okay. Well. And
now it's interesting as you said those names off the dome like a freestyle rapper because of supposedly, allegedly, the relationship and the things that were done to them by Marcus Rogers, as they say, allegedly. She says, "I know my kids don't deserve a father that won't hurt, humiliate, exploit, or use them as props." Isn't that what abuse? Isn't that one of the ways of abuse is defined by this? Says no kid does. I use my platform to give back when I am in social media. He did this in the presence of the children he claims to, quote, love with my whole heart, end quote. A man or woman who abuses their spouse or their other parent of their children has also abused them too. Those kids can't unsee what he chose to do to their mother. Those kids are scarred. Just wanted to ask this question. This what we doing now, y'all? We're doxing, pulling up people's names and information of abuse victims. That's what we're doing now. Did he give you any of the children's names? What are their names? What are their names?
So let me set up this next clip, and I do apologize that some of these clips are going to be a little bit lengthy because Saiko's reading some text messages, so please bear with me. You know how long-winded Saiko is, and hey, if I had to watch his 3 to 4 hour live stream on normal speed mind you, then y'all can, suffer a little bit through those text messages, okay? Anyway, let me set this up. Okay, so Saiko's doing his usual crying about everything because everyone's talking mean about him. Now, Saiko is always moving the goalpost all the time. So when he says, like when people are slandering him publicly, he'll talk about, oh, well, I'm going to address it because they're publicly slandering me. But not anymore. That's not what Saiko thinks now. Saiko is meaning even if you talk to him amongst each other privately, even though it's not publicly being done, that's still an offense to Saiko. So you're not allowed to speak bad about Saiko publicly or amongst yourselves, okay? Y'all can't talk bad about Saiko by yourself privately because that is going to be considered sin. So anyway, he's talking about April. She did a video about him when she like marked in the void, and she had like a wolf on the video, and so he watched it, and he is now kind of calling her out because she said that her pastor warned her about Saiko privately, mind you, privately. But Saiko still takes offense because he doesn't like that. Now, April never mentioned what pastor warned her. So he kind of put all the pieces together and figured out it was this one particular pastor. And so let me tell you how petty Saiko is. I know most of y'all already know. So Saiko, who wants to stir the pot and wants them to be, like little fighting cats with each other. And so he tries to stir the pot between them. And he's like, April is, she kind of calling you out on her live stream, talking about me, and she is talking about you. She name drops you. So anyway, let me, allow him to complain to y'all about it, and then I'll come back, okay?
Pretty clear who your pastor was at the time, who you allege now said that you needed to mark and avoid me. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute.
I abandoned the wise counsel of my pastor at the time, who told me that I needed to mark and avoid.
So who was her pastor at the time? Her pastor was this man, Pastor Roger Skeppel. I reached out to him. Didn't have to. And here's the conversation that I had with him via text message. I said, hello, brother. I have a question I'd like to get clarity on regarding a matter that involves you. Just ensuring I'm employing biblical principles and due process. Because I don't want to make any false accusations. Come on. Y'all know what I'm trying to fight against and try to help us to apply and teach you how to deal with these issues. He said, sure, okay, how can I help? I said, well, before I ask, I want to be clear that it is not my intent to disturb you or cause unnecessary conflict or confusion, but to know if what was communicated about me was directly from you. Do y'all see what I just asked this man?
So you're going to hear Saiko talk about how he doesn't have an axe to grind with anyone. Specifically talking about Roger Skeppel. Hopefully I'm saying his name correctly. Yes, you do, Saiko, have a personal vendetta against anyone who speaks negatively about you. And, for you to take issue with people who want to privately voice their concerns about you, their feelings about you, their opinions about you, they have a right to voice those privately amongst themselves and publicly. Because, hey, you put yourself out there publicly. So you are you are putting yourself up there on that pedestal to be judged, to be criticized. That's the game of it, honey. If you want to be up there and making your little videos and talking about people and things, people are gonna want to have their chance to say how they feel about it and their opinions. And no, you may not agree with it. There's things people say about me I don't agree with, and other people as well. Okay. And this is the point I keep trying to make to you over and over and over and over again, is that you need to accept criticism and people's feedback of you, but you can't handle that. And so now Saiko is reading all the texts, all the correspondence that him and Roger Skeppel had with each other. Now, I don't understand why Saiko is so focused on what Roger Skeppel said to April Chapman in private. And I assure you that when April made that video, 99% of the people watching that video never thought deeply about the pastor. When she said, I abandoned the wise counsel of my pastor at the time, I guarantee you most people weren't even thinking of it that deep. But only Saiko, because he's like, who's talking about me bad? Who is negatively talking about my name and not, giving me praise? And he wants to do his little investigative work. But Saiko wants to make it seem like everybody caught on to it. And no, Saiko, it was only you, boo. It was only you that cares like that. So then he wants to go and contact Roger Skeppel and be like, did you see that about me? Did you say that? Because April implied that you said something mean about me. And I just want to get to the bottom of it. Did you say it? I'm just wanting to have confirmation.
I'm laying out the premise. I don't have any axe to grind. Okay? I don't have any beef with anybody regarding this situation here between my conversation with Pastor Skeppel, right? I don't. But his name was implied in the video. Just do deductive reasoning and do follow the process of circumstantial evidence, as you'll see in a moment, and you'll draw the same conclusion as well too. Her pastor at the time allegedly told her to mark and avoid me. Then who was her pastor? Roger Skeppel. And so I wanted to know. I wanted to ask him. I said, would you like for me to send you the link, or would you prefer reading the quote? He said, either one is fine. And so I read him the quote that April said in the video. I labored a little too longer than I should have. I abandoned the wise counsel of my pastor at the time, who told me that I needed to mark and avoid you. And you see the source where that statement was derived from. I said, is this statement by April Chapman from you referring to me true? I gave him the link. I said, here's the link, because I wanted him to hear it for himself. Here's the link. And notice what the thumbnail says. Mark and avoid Saiko Woods. Mark and avoid Saiko Woods. He says, thanks. I said, it's not long. And then I told him, I said, due to the seriousness of these accusations that are unbiblically unfounded and slanderous, I must respond to April's statements in the same format in which it was presented. Therefore, if you could contact her regarding the context of what the two of you discussed and let me know by this evening, at that time, I would appreciate it. If what you're saying is true, then it is unfortunate that your name is publicly inserted into this issue by April. Either way, in order to protect my character and ministry, a public response to these accusations must be made. Your prompt attention to this matter is greatly appreciated. And so Pastor Skeppel responded and said, I will do my best, but I can't guarantee I can do it on your timeline. Also, I don't know if I used it, but can you send me the timestamp for when my name was actually given? I said, I understand, but please, I said, also understand that this matter cannot be delayed any further than tomorrow morning because I plan to address her accusations involving you later that evening. She didn't mention your name specifically, but it is clear she was referring to you because you were the only pastor she and her husband confided in regarding the reasons why they chose to mark and avoid me. And also, one of the reasons why they decided to leave Berean Baptist Church. I said, April and her husband shared with me why they really decided to leave. She forwarded me their membership withdrawal letter and other documentation. I would assume these things are unbeknownst to you. He says, I will attempt to try, but again, what you know, the average would not. So my name should not be voiced since it was not voiced in her video. And that's where we disagree. Because she made it clear, the pastor at the time told her to mark and avoid me, and those who know her know exactly who she was referring to, and those who know that she was not a member of Eddie Long's church knows exactly who she was not referring to. And since she always talks about him all the time in her videos, I said, those who follow April already know you were her pastor. In fact, you were a guest on her podcast last year, correct? I sent him the link to that. Special guest, Roger Skeppel, Sr. I'm not trying to trap him. I'm not trying to have a gotcha moment. I need to know the facts. I need to know who said what to who, and whoever said what to who about me that was not true, it needed to be dealt with. It needed to be cleaned up, needed to be made right.
So Saiko's getting ready to read a response from Roger Skeppel, answering some of Saiko Wood's questions to him because, like I said, Saiko had reached out to him, texting him about the situation of April, implying his name in her Mark and Avoid video about Saiko Woods. Now, Roger is saying that if he did say something like that to April, because he's trying to recollect what he said because it was probably like a while ago when he was trying to remember what he was saying. But he basically was saying if what April told him is true, then yes, he said that. But it was for her ears only. And Saiko's trying to start trouble by saying, well, she implied that you said that, and she's saying it publicly, and she's referencing your name. And again, Saiko, nobody knew that. Nobody was thinking about that except you. And him letting you know that he doesn't want his name out there and he doesn't want it to be done publicly, when you're doing the same thing by showing all the receipts of the correspondence between you and Roger Skeppel. So you're doing the same thing that you're trying to get on April for by telling everyone else that she's bringing something that was supposed to be private publicly, when really she didn't name his name at all. She just referenced a pastor, which would have been generalized, but Saiko has to be sneaky and try to make more of it than what it was, because that's the only angle he has. So I'm going to let him keep on, and then I'll interject a little bit later.
And so he responds and said, first, I don't remember the specific words or context, but in all likelihood, it was in the context of her explaining to me something you had taught or affirmed. Since I don't listen or read your posts, I would not have been addressing anything other than what she had communicated to me. I would have to talk to her. I can definitely see me within that context indicating that if said person is saying or doing such a such, he should be avoided. I would have to verify that with her. Also, anything I shared with her, anything I shared with her was for her and not for public consumption. Sophisticated, you said this. So did Pastor Skeppel say this to April in a private conversation? Yes, he said that what he shared with her was not to be used for public consumption. So April, in the video, made it public consumption. She said that her pastor at that time told her to mark and avoid me. So she took a private conversation that was not to be made public. There was no reason from what he's saying and inferring. It should have never been used for public consumption. Well, brother, you need to get with April, because she made your business public consumption. And so that's why I asked the question. But this brother said anything I shared with her was for her, not for public consumption. Well, she made it public consumption when she inferred your name. Because Roger Skeppel was the only pastor at that time who allegedly told her this. So, follow the logic for a second. April does a video about me. The title of the video is Mark and Avoid Saiko Woods. She says that she lingered a little too longer than she should have, and she abandoned the wise counsel of her pastor, who told her to mark and avoid me. No, I'm sorry. She abandoned, the wise counsel of her pastor at that time. At the time was Roger Skeppel. Because based on what this man just said, whatever he shared with her was for her, but not for public consumption. So then why did she make it for public consumption in her video?
So this whole thing with Roger Skeppel and Saiko Woods, it kind of backfired on him. Like, he didn't get the reaction he really wanted from Roger, because he wanted Roger to be really upset, by letting him know, hey, April's talking about you. She's referencing you, and you said you didn't want it to be for public knowledge. And he's not really getting that reaction. He really wants Roger to be upset, and he's not getting it. And I really don't see the relevance of why Saiko is so bent on talking to Roger Skeppel. I mean, like, for what? Okay, he told her something in private, personal to her, and you want to go be a little tattletale and go and tell him and say that, hey, April's talking about you. She's dropping your name. She's referencing you, and everyone that follows her knows who you are. They all know who she was talking about, trying to get him to feel some type of way, but it didn't work. So good on you, Roger, if you ever see this video. And yes, I think it's petty. It's all petty, but we all know that Saiko's petty. But for the people who don't realize the depth of his pettiness, that's why I make these videos, for the people who don't see it right away and they need a little extra help. But yeah, he didn't get the reaction. And as I already mentioned, Saiko is being a hypocrite and doing the same exact thing that Roger didn't want to happen, to have his name out there, and Saiko's putting him out there anyway, but yet saying how wrong April was for putting her pastor, who she didn't name, out there publicly, and saying that she should have kept that private but didn't. Saiko, you're a mess. You're a hot mess. Let's continue. Y'all, I'm almost done. Hang in there. I'm almost done.
I have never, by God's holy grace, attacked somebody because we disagree. I attack arguments. I attack logic. I don't attack individuals. Now, people may perceive that I do. I'm not attacking a person if I'm holding you accountable for what you say and I'm exposing you and what you're doing to people or what you're trying to do to me or those in my care.
Okay, see, I just want to interject real quick. Saiko is saying two things here. He's saying he doesn't attack people who disagree with him, but then he says he attacks arguments. Okay, so people who talk about Saiko privately and disagree with him, his character, his behavior, things that he does, things that he says, that's a disagreement because Saiko's not going to agree with what they say and they're not going to agree with how Saiko sees it. So there's a disagreement there. And so Saiko's being a hypocrite and lying, saying he doesn't attack people that don't agree with him. And yes, you do, Saiko, attack people who don't agree with you, whether it's talking about your character, your behavior, the things that you say, things that you do, how you move. Yes, you do take offense to people who disagree with you. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't keep making all these childish live streams talking about it for 4+ hours and crying throughout the whole time about how people are slandering you and being hypocrites and talking negatively about you. So stop your lying.
So I reached out to him. Matter of fact, when I sent the last message to him, I was expecting for him to respond back to me. He never did. And so last night, before my live last night, about 20 some odd minutes before the live, I reached out to Pastor Skeppel because I wanted to get a follow-up. I hadn't heard from him. And so I asked him, I said, have you spoken with April regarding her video? I wanted to know. What do you think his answer was?
Saiko's getting ready to read Roger's final response to him. And as you will hear, Roger didn't care. April didn't use his name, and he'll even specify that in his last text to Saiko that, hey, he was fine because she didn't use his name. But he did ask Saiko, please don't mention me publicly about our correspondence and anything that you and I have been conversing over. And Saiko says on the live, oh no, that ain't gonna happen. Oh, I'm definitely gonna be bringing you up. But you see, I just want to bring up the hypocrisy again. He chastised April for implying the pastor. But then Saiko turns around, does the same thing. And matter of fact, does even more damage because he's actually naming the name and bringing up the receipts in form of attacks. So that's why he doesn't make a bit of sense. His brain, he's all over the place. And I'm just so hoping and praying that people that are not aware of his tactics and of his behavior will see these videos, as petty as they are. I hope they see them and turn away and not even engage with this nonsense.
Here's his answer. He says, hey, I'm not getting involved in this. I won't be engaging on it anymore. And since my name was not used, please do not use my name either. Thank you. Sorry. Can't do that. Can't do that, sir.
So I just want to end this video with this last segment of Saiko Woods talking about how we should respect our elders. You know, people who are older than us, old enough to be our daddy. You know, he thinks we should respect them. And yes, we should when they are being respectful. Now, I don't all the way agree with Saiko Woods because if I feel like there is an older person that is not being their age and is being very disrespectful, then I do believe that correction is necessary. But I don't think it should be a disrespectful way, but it should be noted to that person when they acted out of pocket. Let me give you all an example. And you know what, y'all, I don't care who gets mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway because it ties into what I'm making my point. My adopted family, who were white, nothing wrong with it. I'm just letting you know that's what it was. My adopted mother's mother, my grandmother, we called her grandmother, we went to a restaurant one time. And as we were eating, the waiter came around and she was still eating. She wasn't finished with her food. But the waiter didn't see that. So he went to pick up her plate and she took her butter knife and hit him on the knuckles like that and said, young man, I'm not finished with my food yet. Now, come on, y'all. Is that appropriate? He did. Obviously, if he knew she was still eating, he wouldn't have done that. But he thought she was done. I guess because she was like talking and not working on eating. And she took the butter knife and went like that over his knuckles, over his hand, in front of everyone. And I thought that was really disrespectful. And yes, I do believe when the older people are acting a fool and being disrespectful, then they deserve correction. Just like you, Saiko, with the younger folks correcting you in your behavior and you acting out of pocket, and you need to get correction and reproved. But obviously, it doesn't work both ways for you, because we see how you treat John MacArthur. And don't get me wrong, I don't know John MacArthur. I've never followed his content, watched any of his sermons. I have no clue about him. Matter of fact, I didn't even know that he was in the hospital for months, or he was having health issues. And I thought it was very disrespectful, though, when I looked at one of your recent live streams, when you talked about how John MacArthur is on his last breath and getting ready to live up out of here, which I'm getting ready to show that clip. And I don't care how you feel about John MacArthur. You don't say things disrespectful. If you think that he is in error, pray for him. You pointed out things that he did that was error, but at the same time, you have to pray that he sees the light and that he does get his eyes open to the truth of all of his errors. And then you leave it to God. But you don't get disrespectful and talk about how he's getting ready to check up out of here and that he's on his last breath. But then demand everybody else respect you because you're an elder, because you're old enough to be somebody's daddy. But honey, you can't have it both ways, sweetheart. You can't. I know you really want to so bad, but you can't, Saiko Woods, okay? You need to go sit down in a chair somewhere and just be quiet and just kind of listen to someone who's got some sense into you, okay? You need to listen more than you talk. That's your problem. You talk more than you listen, okay? And the Bible says that you need to be slow to speak and quick to hear. And you never do any of those things. So I'm going to play the clips out. Some of it are kind of repeat clips, but nonetheless, it all ties in together. Okay.
It's sad, ladies and gentlemen. It's sad. When people that we would consider to be heretics, false teachers, those who are not saved or whatever, right? It's really sad, and it's an indictment against those like Michaela Murphy and others who claim to know doctrine, but don't know how to respect the elders, who claim to know doctrine, but not know how to treat people of higher status. When I'm talking about higher status, I'm talking about when it comes to age and position, with respect. But it's sad when you have people that we would consider heretics that know how elders and how those in authority over us and those who have been in the game or those who have been on this terra firma longer than you and I have, how they are to be respected and treated.
10 seconds later.
And unfortunately, many of you still follow these people and will still support these people, regardless of what they do. Because your idol, the love of your life, is an old white man who's on his last few breaths and an unrepentant thief. Idolatry. They're worshiping an old white guy that's about to die and a liar who won't stop lying about him being a thief back in the day. Corey Minor. So John MacArthur and Corey Minor is why all of this stuff is going on. And none of this had to happen, Corey, if you didn't lie. None of this had to happen if you were not caping for an old white dude who's about to check up out of here.